Hi, my name is Steven and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how to seek solitude, self-care tips on peace and quiet. Society as a whole has really done a number on our sanity, and I think we all need that pause and disconnect from time to time to reset ourselves. People that are fairly new to seeking solitude might think that it's just something that introverts do, but that's not entirely true. Sometimes an extrovert such as myself wants to seek solitude as well. There are times that I need to be alone with my thoughts and feelings and work through them and process them. And not every issue needs to be discussed in a consensus among other people. In fact, it might be better for you to carve out your own solutions among issues that you might have. I've often seek solitude whenever things are overwhelming and I need time to disconnect. A quick timeout can be the best thing an active mind can have in order to reset expectations and come back to normal, and help you get back to some of that inner peace that your mind is craving for. So how does one find peace by themselves? So in today's video, I'm going to talk about my background, my guide to seeking solitude, and my general thoughts. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share with friends, hit that notification bell if you like this content. And here we go. Throughout my life, there's been multiple periods of time where things got overwhelming and I needed to seek solitude and get away from it all. And usually these overwhelming periods are just before a big event or just after a big event. And in these times, I just want to process everything that's going on in peace and quiet. But seeking solitude isn't easy sometimes, and there's a bunch of stigma often attached to it in society these days. And some people might even go as far as stopping you from seeking solitude, even if it would greatly benefit you in the long run. When we intentionally isolate ourselves, we can recover from long-standing issues or just recover from overwhelm, or things that can cause us major stress and anxiety within our lives. The time off can be really helpful in giving our minds a mental health break. Personally, it gives your body and mind a rest from it all. In the past, I usually shy away from telling people that I'm seeking solitude and want to isolate myself completely from the world. But over the last couple of years, the associated stigmas attached with it has been less and less prevalent. Now more than ever, mental health and self-care are at the forefront of the conversation. And it's not a weakness for you to take time off and recover from stress and anxiety within your life. The following tips are what I use for seeking solitude in order for me to get some peace and quiet in my life. So here are my tips on seeking solitude. Number 1, know that you can disengage. Knowing that you have the permission to disengage from life and seek solitude whenever you need it is a big tip. You don't need to accept it. You need to do whatever is in the best interest for your mental health. Sometimes it can be tough to work through the obligations and responsibilities that you have, but trust me, in the long term, it's worth it. Taking proactive steps now can alleviate burnout and possible depression later down the line. I know that for me, initially I was very hesitant to take vacation to alleviate some of the burnout I was feeling. And for the longest time, I was seeking others' permission before I take that vacation. And even talking to other people about taking time off felt guilty to me. In the past, it was like the world didn't acknowledge that we all needed to rest and recover from things. I think the pandemic really helped us to break out of that mindset. I needed to give myself permission to seek solitude and then go ahead and do it. For someone just starting out seeking solitude, I suggest you take a stock of where you're at in life and whether or not what kind of break do you need. Do you need a short break or do you need a really long break? And if you do need a break, plan it out as soon as you can, because there's no time like the present to start giving yourself a break. So know that you can take time off and seek solitude and you don't need anyone else's permission to do so. Number 2, quiet the mind. The whole point of being in solitude is to remove all the noise around you. This usually pertains to external noises, but internal noises matter as well. Seeking solitude works best when you don't have a cluttered mind and you can think clearly. Even though you can be in solitude, your mind can still be racing and thinking about all the things in your life. Just like with external noises, the internal noises have to be reduced as well. To gain the most out of self-isolation, you have to be sure that you're not distracted in any way, and that you're not spending precious mental energy combating your thoughts. When I go to seek solitude, I focus on objects near me, not my thoughts. For example, when I'm in nature, I look at animals, lakes, or trees, and I just focus in on them until all my thoughts are gone. This helps my mind to focus on something else rather than my problems. This can be a form of meditation as well. You can also focus on your breathing. The key is to distance yourself from the active mind and focus on a calmer mind. So making sure that you spend as much time away from your thoughts as possible. When you're at peace internally and externally, you're in solitude. Number 3, start small. When you are committed to seeking solitude, start small. Don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning. Because depending on where you are, you might have to take it slow in order for you to get comfortable in seeking solitude. When you first start out, you might be very uncomfortable with long periods of silence and solitude. And you'll need adjustment periods in order for you to spend longer and longer times in solitude. Remember that the longer you spend in solitude, the more restorative the benefits of it are. When I first started seeking solitude, I go for walks in the park and short drives, and usually they would be very close to where I lived at the time. But as I got better seeking solitude, I would go on vacations by myself or long road trips. I remember going to Hawaii by myself and taking a 2,500-mile road trip around the states. These were trips that I went by myself for me to clear my mind of things at the time. Because at that time in my life, I was very unsure about what the next steps in my life were. I really needed time to process and figure out what my next steps were. Being by yourself for a week solid changes you. If you can handle being in solitude, maybe a weekend camping trip is sufficient for you. Connecting with nature might not be a bad idea for those 48 to 72 hours. But if you're not comfortable with seeking solitude, start small first and spend just a little bit time by yourself. Build up from a few hours to maybe a couple of days. Long periods of solitude has been restorative and relaxing for me, but it requires a lot of work. So start small and build up to it. Number 4, distance work wonders. As I alluded to in the last tip, sometimes seeking solitude means getting as far away from the problem as you can. Taking a vacation or going somewhere by yourself can be the best way to seek solitude. Every time we take a vacation, it's like a mental trick is being played on us. We are resetting the expectations of what our home life was. Because taking a vacation in and of itself is giving us time away from our problems. And the farther you go, the more distance you physically put between you and your problems. And from physically being farther away, you actually put distance between you and the people in your life. And that distance can help you resolve the problems that you might have with them in your head. The 2,500-mile road trip that I took helped me to process a lot of things on my mind at the time. And those were things that I needed time and separation distance from in order for me to resolve it. Because when I'm in my normal life, I just don't have the time and solitude that I need to resolve those things. And with such a tight schedule that I have, I just didn't have time to make space for myself. I needed to be physically apart. So a simple trip away from your problems can be a great way to seeking solitude. Find a place that works for you and go there. Number 5, peace in the end. Lastly, when you are seeking solitude, you are building a habit that helps you for the rest of your life. And that literally can change the course of your life from wherever you're currently starting at. This is because when we're going about our busy lives, we're not thinking about creating space for solitude within that life. We don't generally build in a lot of time just to be by ourselves within our daily schedule. Things always take precedence over seeking solitude within our lives. And the breaks that we do tend to have are coupled with vacations. And vacations, as you all know, may or may not be in solitude. The people that you go with on your vacation might stress you out even more. By keeping in mind that if you have the foundation of seeking solitude regularly, it will help your long-term mental health and well-being. You can give yourself much needed space and mental energy to resolve all the problems and issues that you might have in life. And over your lifetime, it can be a really positive influence to have that dedicated space for you. For me, I build into my schedule on a daily basis to have some sort of solitude for myself. This time can be really relaxing for me or resolve the problems that I'm having in my life, and help me not to burn out and give a space for my thoughts to mature and process. I make it a habit to make it sustainable for the long run. For others, it can be as simple as blocking out your calendar and making sure that you do something in solitude for that time. Take a walk, go for a drive, or just being in a quiet room by yourself. The key is to make time for it and make sure that you do it regularly. And then, over the lifetime, you'll have a method to relieve tension and ease mental stress. So here are my general thoughts on seeking solitude. Disengaging from people in your day-to-day life to go into solitude can be the hardest thing when starting out. People don't really know how to justify to others that they're seeking self-isolation, and they might not want to field questions on why they're doing it in the first place. Not wanting to disappoint others and focusing on self-care can be a really big impediment to seeking solitude. I think that for most of the problems in our lives, we need isolation and time to recover and process through it. I know for myself that if I don't go through periods of solitude, then I won't be at my optimum. And it's really hard for me to support myself and others when they count on me. It's like being in an airplane and being told that you need to put on the oxygen mask on yourself first before other people. You need to be okay first and get that oxygen before you start helping other people. So my general rule of thumb is don't be afraid to seek solitude. Find it whenever you need to. So those are my tips on seeking solitude. The world that we live in today is never ending, and it can induce a lot of stress and anxiety within our lives. And there are a lot of things in our lives that block us from seeking solitude, both internally and externally. Internally, we can stop ourselves from reaching out for that self-care that we desperately need. And obligations to other people might also hinder us from taking that break that we need. And externally, our on-demand world challenges us to be available all the time to people. To isolate ourselves to seek solitude is not something that other people want to see from us. When we take time to care for ourselves, we come back into the world better and stronger. But going from wanting to seeking solitude can be very challenging at times. There are many things that can stop us from seeking solitude in the first place. With a few tips in mind, you're going to be on your way to seeking solitude, so that it'll refresh your mind for whatever challenges you might face in the future. So the main keys are, know that you can disengage, quiet the mind, and peace in the end. So thank you for watching. Please leave a comment down below on where do you go to seek solitude and why do you choose that place. And I'll see you next time.